These are the games of our children, because they are the consequences of war. No matter how we hide our children, the war is with them. And the decision of 2014 led to this.
We asked them what they mean by non-military methods and what algorithm they recommend. They remain silent. Crimea is Ukraine. Crimea will return home. Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukrainemediacenter and NGO Euro-Atlantic Course. And I'm your host, Matt Wickham. And in this episode, we discuss 10 years of Russia's occupation of Ukrainian Crimea. And has the world learned from the lessons of failed appeasement of the aggressor? Or are these lessons that have gone unlearned? Yevheniia Horyunova, political scientist, critiques the inconsistent US and Western responses to the Crimea situation, highlighting a failure to take decisive action back in 2014. She argues that while Western leaders, including Obama and Trump, underestimated Russia's intentions, their policies have not effectively addressed the aggression, leading to the ongoing war. Finally, she calls for a clear approach and unified approach, emphasizing that merely imposing sanctions while continuing economic ties with Russia undermines the effort to combat aggression and achieve lasting peace. Let's listen.
Washington had to make a clear decision at that time in terms of security about what it is the main thing, in this case for European security, and not to believe. I don't think that Mr. Obama or later other US presidents believed Mr. Putin that if he took Crimea, he would calm down. I think they realized that he might go further. But in my opinion, this is such a policy which means that we will solve this problem later, someday. Or maybe there won't be a problem. Maybe it won't be me. Yes, absolutely right. Maybe I won't be the one to solve it. By the way, this Obama's rhetoric reminds me a little of Trump's statements. I don't remember the year, but he said, well, they speak Russian there in Crimea, so it should be Russian. Does this approach mean that if people speak more Spanish in some American state, it should be given to Mexico or to Spain? We understand that this approach does not correspond to the status that the United States positions itself as, and the status of the US presidents, Obama and Trump, respectively. So it seems to me that in this game that the West tried to play, to make certain combinations, I don't know if they played chess or a different game, but I think they did make a lot of mistakes. And today they realize it. But they don't understand how to fix them either. To be more precise, the easiest way is to provide Ukraine with more weapons, so that Ukraine can win. But on the other hand, there are different steps, many moves, as the Russian president says, and many other things. So what can we do with all these things? There are also economic aspects, because these 10 years, despite everything that happened in Crimea and then in Donbas, the European Union, not only the US, but also the EU, actively traded with the Russian Federation. Sanctions are sanctions, but Russian gas is Russian gas, and this is the main thing. And today, when there are sanctions again, indeed, there are many of them, and we thank our European partners for that. But I read the news that the amount of Russian liquefied gas in European gas storage facilities is increasing. Where are the sanctions? Where is the gas? Where is Russia the aggressor here? Where is the clear approach? So, if you pursue a policy, yes, policy is definitely a very complicated thing. It cannot be anonymous, purposeful, because there are different circles, different interests, no doubt about it. But still, if the European Union or the US clearly determine that Russia is indeed an aggressor, a country that there can be no other definitions after February 2022. We need a policy that is fully adequate as a response to the aggressor. It can be like here we can come to an agreement with the aggressor and there we'll stand to death. Indeed, Crimea was the Russian Federation's first attempt. It was followed by more. Donbas came next, then a full-scale war against Ukraine. Today, there are also thoughts that let's make peace somewhere, not in the middle, of course, but for example, let's give something away to leave. Well, good, but in 3 years there will be a new war, maybe in 5. What will we give away next? I mean, there can be no territorial options here. As long as I hear the authorities speak, I think it is really the position of the Ukrainian authorities that these territorial concessions won't lead to peace, maybe to a truce. But what is a truce? So that Russia starts making even more of these missiles again, which will be used to target hospitals? This is not accidental. They do it purposefully. And it will continue. If earlier it was more or less, they at least somehow substantiated that there was some military facility there. Now they don't even try to hide it. That's why we can say that all these games of the West are indeed big politics. I perfectly understand all of this. But all the same, when we have to deal with such a serious situation, our own interests should be a little bit more coordinated, or even more seriously coordinated with international interests, with the interests of the bloc, I mean the allies, and with the interests of those rights and values declared by Western countries. Because today, very often, our Western partners say one thing and do another. Therefore, it is necessary to ensure that the values declared by our Western partners are matched by their actions, in order to end the war as soon as possible.
Olga Skrypnyk, head of the board of the Crimean human rights group, reflects on the profound impact of war on children, sharing her personal stories of how her own children born after 2014 are affected by the ongoing war. She underscores the necessity for current politicians to address the consequences of past inaction and to create a clear and unified vision for Ukraine's victory, emphasizing the importance of justice, accountability, and a strategic approach to ending Russia's aggression. Let's listen in full.
I have 2 children. Both of them were born after 2014. My son was born in 2022 during an air raid in Kyiv. 3 days ago, a Russian missile killed 5 children in Kyiv who were at home on vacation. Most of us heard that explosion and understood that it was followed by death. And the decisions made in 2014 led to the fact that today my children, like thousands of Ukrainian children, know about the war. They play air raid, missiles. My daughter plays a cat whose whole family was killed. And she's a new cat because a Russian bomb landed and she's looking for new parents. These are the games of our children, because they are the consequences of war. No matter how we hide our children, the war is with them. And the decision of 2014 led to this. I'm 100% sure of this. Therefore, I would like to speak to these politicians and show what Ukraine is actually doing now. And each of us must show all the terrible consequences, including Okhmadit and including all the horrors that are happening, to both the former politicians and, importantly, to the incumbent ones. Because they still have a chance, not to correct mistakes. It will no longer be possible to correct them, because in 2014 it was possible to stop the aggression if there were decisive actions in the economic sphere, in the sphere of sanctions, and in the sphere of justice, bringing to justice. We know that even now, in principle, Russia has not fully borne the real responsibility, including for thousands and thousands of victims among our military and among our civilians, including children. Therefore, I would speak from this point of view as well. But today, the politicians who have replaced those who made the decisions in 2014 have this chance, and they should use this chance to do everything for the victory of Ukraine. But the victory of Ukraine must be clearly understood and clearly, let's say, outlined. Because we see, and the same peace summit recently has shown, that there are different versions of peace, different versions of victory, and even different versions of Ukraine. But there should be only one, our Ukrainian version. Why? Because it is based on the norms of international humanitarian law. It is based on human rights norms. It is based on bringing to justice. Because this victory, which includes the destruction of the terrorist state in the sense of a state that will never again be able to raise its head, hand, or any weapon against other states and violate human rights on such a large scale as it does in the occupied territories. This is just a guarantee that it will not happen again. This is a chance for all other territories, for all other regions to still find this path, which will become the road so that we can really stop these conflicts, so that we have this prevention. But there will be no prevention without justice. Therefore, I believe that today's politicians, as pathetic as it may sound, got a chance to change the world. This world can be changed because they will create really effective mechanisms to hold Russia accountable and effective mechanisms to stop Russia's aggression and make it impossible. For example, very often I hear the thesis that the war will end in Crimea. This is not yet a fact, because even when we deoccupy Crimea, and our colleagues in the security sphere, Mikhailo and Pavlo, can confirm this, it does not mean that Russia will stop shooting at us. Therefore, we also cannot rely on this illusion that it is enough for us to deoccupy Crimea. No, it is not enough. It's just that without the deoccupation of Crimea, no security strategy at all is possible. But Russia will not stop either. It can shell Crimea as well. Therefore, we must speak clearly and frankly with our partners and demand the same clear position from them. What is a victory for Ukraine? How do we stop Russia? Not today, as you say, a truce. We will stop firing for 3 days, 5, and even 10 years. How do we stop Russia strategically when it is no longer a threat? And there are several ways. Military, about which my security colleagues say a lot, but also in terms of human rights. I never get tired of talking about it. This is a path of justice, bringing to justice and bearing all costs to compensate for damages. So Crimea and the victims of Russian repression should have access to the International Register of Damages and compensation for the damage caused by Russian aggression that began in Crimea. This is precisely one of the ways that our partners can take over now, be active in this and really play this historical role, fulfill their historical role. Because I am really sure that these are historical events, which can either give the world a chance to live without violence in a democracy, or the coalition of totalitarian states will win.
Pavlo Lakiychuk, head of the security programs at the Center for Global Studies Strategy, critiques the West's silence on non-military solutions for Crimea, questioning why proposed methods remain vague and unsupported. He highlights the contradiction in Western arguments that military conflict will escalate if there is a military solution to Crimea, but they offer no other concrete alternative. He also asserts that the liberation of Crimea is inevitable and it is absolutely crucial for Ukraine's future. Let's listen in full. The liberation of Crimea will take place. You know, when we communicated with our foreign colleagues for 10 years, maybe 8, except for the last 2, they always emphasized that there is no military solution to Crimea. There is only another way. The Crimean problem is solvable, but not through military means, they say. We asked them what they mean by non-military methods and what algorithm they recommend. They remain silent. However, the question arises as to why there is no military solution to the Crimean issue. What arguments could be made? We only received silence in response. And then they say, well, you understand, the liberation of Crimea means we will lead to escalation. A major war will break out, and we do not want it to happen in that way. So what are your suggestions, we ask? And they make none. They have no idea how to liberate Crimea in any other way. So soon, very soon, in terms of history, Ukrainian soldiers will return to their quarters. Crimean Ukrainians will return to Crimea. And I agree with Mrs. Horyunova here and Mikhailo Mikhailovich. They also both make a correct point about the fact that, by and large, Crimea is the key to liberating Ukraine from enemy occupation. General Hodges, by the way, holds roughly the same opinion. He is the former commander of the US ground forces in Europe and Africa. So Crimea is Ukraine. Crimea will return home. You've been watching the special project by UkraineMediaCenter and NGO Eurolanta course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find more information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!